Did you know psychopathy is not considered a mental illness? According to the DSM-5, the diagnostic manual used by health professionals, this condition is not listed as an official clinical diagnosis. Contrary to what many people think, psychopaths do distinguish between right and wrong, but they have a disturbing deficiency: emotional empathy. The integrated psychopath is not the classic villain you can easily identify. He is the good father, the charming neighbor, the irreproachable worker. My name is Pedro Alonso López, although many know me as the Monster of the Andes. My story has baffled criminologists and experts for years, challenging everything we think we know about psychopathy, humanity, and justice. Do you dare to know it? In 1980, heavy rains swept through the city of Ambato, Ecuador, washing away not only several people, but also uncovering something investigators never expected to see: 4 bodies. At first, it was believed that these victims had been washed away by the natural disaster, but they soon realized that someone had tried to hide these terrible crimes. Who could be so cold as to hide these bodies and hope that no one would find them? What the authorities didn't know was that they were about to unmask one of the most chilling serial killers in history. I was born on October 8, 1948 in Tolima, Colombia, in the midst of one of the darkest periods of the country's history, marked by the Civil War. My childhood was marked by lack, hunger, and the absence of a father figure. My father died 6 months before I was born in a fight in a tavern. From that moment on, everything went uphill. My mother, burdened by the need to feed 13 children of different men, had to do the unthinkable. Prostitution became her only way out. We, her children, slept in the same room. Only a curtain separated our space from that of her clients. My mother rarely exercised her maternal role, and when she did, it was with blows. These wounds were not only physical, but mental, and marked the beginning of a dark path from which there would be no return.
Como resultado, el joven Pedro se preocupó tanto por el sexo como por la agresión. Incluso empezó a tocar a su hermana de forma inapropiada.
When I was 9 years old, my life changed completely. My mother kicked me out of the house for inappropriate behavior towards my little sister. From that moment on, I found myself alone in the world. The streets were unforgiving and quickly taught me what desperation meant. I explored dangerous places and fed on whatever I could find in the garbage. One day, while wandering aimlessly, I met an old man. He offered me food and a place to sleep, but his intentions were not good. Upon arriving at their shelter, an abandoned building, I suffered a physical and emotional attack that would mark my life. It wasn't the only time. For years, I was a victim of people who took advantage of my vulnerability, which led me to hide during the day and only go out to look for food. I decided to look for my first job, but was turned down again and again for lack of experience. With no options in sight, I began to enter the world of car theft. At first, it was petty theft, and the police let me go free because I was a minor. But by the time I reached my teens, I was no longer just an apprentice. I had become a very skilled car thief. At the age of 21, I was arrested for robbery in Bogotá and sentenced to 7 years in prison. Only a few days after entering prison, the older inmates subdued and abused me. Filled with anger, I made a drastic decision. Using prison utensils, I fashioned a weapon, and 2 weeks later carried out an act of revenge that would change my life forever. This unexpected turn of events resulted in an additional 2 years on my sentence, as it was considered self-defense. When I was finally released in 1978, there was no trace left of the Pedro I had been. What came out of those bars was just a shadow looking for something, although I didn't know exactly what. Once freed, I began to wander through Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. I had no fixed destination. Sometimes I walked long distances. Other times, I hid in cargo trucks. During my journey, I reached indigenous communities in the Ayacucho region of southern Peru. I gained the trust of young women with false promises of employment or gifts. I led them to remote areas where I committed atrocious crimes. To avoid leaving a trace, I hid the evidence in remote areas, ensuring that no one could discover what I had done. When girls began to disappear from the tribe, the Aborigines nicknamed me the Monster of the Andes because I attacked in that mountain range. On one occasion, while trying to take a young girl, I was captured by a group of the tribe in northern Peru. I was beaten and buried with my head outside. Just when it seemed all was lost, an American missionary interceded. She convinced them that they were committing an inhumane act and undertook to hand me over to the authorities. However, halfway there, she took pity on me and released me at the Colombian border. In the 1970s and 1980s, Latin America was a place in chaos. Poverty, inefficient authorities, and slow communications meant that people like me could go unnoticed. I took every opportunity to move with stealth and precision. For years, I focused my attention on young people living in environments marked by poverty and lack of opportunities. Many of them went unnoticed by the authorities, which facilitated my movements. I chose the right moment with precision. For days, I would watch their routines and analyze every move before acting. I had a strange fascination with the way eyes reflected sunlight, so I preferred to perform during the day. Sometimes I pretended to be a street vendor, offering simple objects or small gifts, trying to build trust. For years, the world seemed to ignore my actions. No one paid attention to what was really going on. But everything changed in 1980 when I made a mistake. In the market of Ambato, Ecuador, I had an incident with a little girl, Maria. I tried to take her away, but her mother, Carlina Poveda, noticed. Things quickly got out of control. Within minutes, a crowd gathered, and before I could escape, I was in the custody of the authorities. That moment marked the beginning of my downfall. The days following my arrest were dark. I kept silent for days. At first, they thought I was crazy because of my behavior, as I kept laughing. It was then that an agent pretended to be the priest Córdoba Gudino. His approach was different. He appealed to what little was left of my faith. I spent the whole night confessing my crimes to him. At dawn, he came out of the cell and told the authorities that he could not stand another minute. I confessed my participation in the disappearance of approximately 300 people and declared that more than 100 of these crimes took place in Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru. During the interrogations, I even mentioned that young Ecuadorian girls tended to trust strangers more, unlike Colombian girls who showed greater caution. Authorities found the remains of 53 of these victims in Ecuador, but the exact number is still under debate among experts. My cooperation enabled the authorities to solve several of these cases. For many, the floods that revealed the remains were seen as a kind of natural justice, as if the earth itself was speaking. I was sentenced to 16 years in prison for multiple murder, the maximum penalty in Ecuador at the time. The country's laws did not contemplate harsher penalties, and for good behavior, my sentence was reduced by 2 years. My release in 1994 provoked a great public debate and much indignation. People could not understand how, after all that had happened, I was back on the streets. Only an hour later, I was extradited to Colombia, where psychologists evaluated me and determined that my mental state required internment in a specialized center. 4 years later, in an unexpected twist, the doctors declared that I was ready to be reintegrated into society. I was released on the condition that I report regularly to the authorities, but I never did. My first action was to seek out my mother in Espinal. and ask her for money. To help me, she sold her bed and a chair. After that meeting, I disappeared. Since that visit in 2010, my whereabouts remain a mystery. Where am I now? Some believe I have returned to Colombia under a false identity. Others claim that I am no longer alive. The truth is that, since then, no one has been able to track me down. Not even Interpol. Is this the end of my story, or simply the beginning of a new hidden chapter? There is a phenomenon in criminology called the M'Naghten effect, which arose in 1843 when Daniel M'Naghten was acquitted of a crime on the grounds of insanity. This principle changed the judicial landscape, allowing some criminals to be released due to mental health problems. My story has been studied for decades and continues to be the subject of debate among criminologists and psychologists. But the question remains, how should we deal with these cases? If you liked this video, like it and subscribe for more shocking crime and mystery content. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. In the next video, I'll take you to the dark streets of Chicago, where a man designed a hotel that hid dark secrets. We'll talk about the famous Castle of Horrors. Don't miss it. Never turn off the light.